Send them an email. Hey, if our proposal doesn't get finished by this date, from every day there on after, the offer will get considerably worse. This is our best offer. This is our final offer. We're done negotiating.
That's not just frustration you're hearing in that clip. That's the sound of someone watching a negotiation spiral completely into absurdity in real time. And honestly, what he's describing with that deadline strategy isn't just a good idea. It's exactly what the WNBA owners should have implemented weeks ago to stop this nonsense. Because right now, the Players Association just dropped their latest counteroffer. And when you actually look at the details, it reveals something deeply concerning and frankly a bit delusional about how they're approaching these high-stakes talks.
Let's say I bought it off Craigslist. Pretty sure I did. Let's say it was a Ninja ZX6R. Got it for $4,500 used on Craigslist. Nice. Great bike. Lovely bike. Fast bike. Let's say I wanted the bike for $2,000. Do you think the gentleman that was selling that bike would take me seriously as a buyer? If I say, I'll offer you $2,000 for the bike that you're demanding $4,500.
The motorcycle analogy he used is absolute perfection because it completely exposes the fundamental problem with the players' current negotiating strategy. On February 28th, the WNBA Players Association submitted their latest proposal, and get this, they're now asking for 26% of gross revenue, which is a tiny step down from their previous demand of 27.5%. Meanwhile, the league is standing firm at 15%.
Give you $3,500 for it. Now I'm really asking for $4,500, $35 solid, but we're still a little bit too far away. $4,000? You take $4,000 for it? Now what that person will say, oh, now he's serious about buying this bike. All right, $4,000, we're about $500 off. Hey, $4,250, take it, it's yours. You know what? $4,100, it's the best I got right now. Cash, here you go. You know what? $4,100's cool. Here's the bike, here's the title, here are the keys. Go home, have a good time.
And here's the thing, everyone needs to understand about this. Moving your ask from 30% to 27% and then to 26% isn't negotiating in good faith. That is the equivalent of trying to buy a $50,000 luxury car, offering $22,000, and then acting like you're being incredibly reasonable because you came up an extra $500.
Because these concessions, this counter proposal, it's a waste of time at this point. The owners have to be looking at this like a waste of time at this point. Once the players get to around 20% in their counter proposal, then maybe the owners will start to move into that 17% range. But they need to come down to 20%. They're not going to come down to 26 and then the owners go to 15, and then 25, and the owners go to 15 and a half, and then 24, then they go to 16, and they meet somewhere in the 20% range. That I don't think is going to happen at all.
You really have to watch that progression again to see how ridiculous this is. The players started this whole process demanding a staggering 30% of gross revenue back in October 2024. Then, they moved to 27.5% in their February 17th proposal, thinking that was a major concession. Now, mere days later, they're at 26%. Meanwhile, the owners haven't budged an inch from 15%, and there is a crucial, undeniable reason why they aren't moving.
Maybe if they would have moved off of that 30% down to 26% back in November, back in October, maybe then we'd be making some progress. But to do it in the 11th hour, we're just wasting time here. WNBPA asks in this offer 26% gross revenue share over the life of the deal and $9.45 million salary cap in 2026. The previous WNBA offer, 15% gross revenue share over the life of the deal and a $5.65 million cap in 2026. Does it look like the players even try to come closer?
The league turned its first profit in 25 years during the 2024 season, literally one single year of profitability after a quarter century of losses. And yet the players are negotiating like they just delivered 5 consecutive years of massive financial growth. The owners are sitting there looking at this proposal like, wait, you want us to commit to these massive revenue-sharing percentages forever based on a single profitable season that was driven almost entirely by the popularity of one specific rookie?
If you say, deal's not done by March 10th, March 11th, well, now we're at 14%. March 20th, well, now we're all the way down to 11.5% of team revenue. Let's get into some reactions because I actually enjoy seeing people be frustrated and fed up with this. Lets me know that people are waking up. Correct me if I am wrong, but WNBA offered 15% net revenue. Players Association is not negotiating in good faith. No business sense. You cannot ask for gross revenue. LMAO, unserious. Maybe the WNBA will submit a proposal every day until March 10th.
Here's what makes this particularly frustrating for anyone who understands business and is watching these negotiations play out. The players decided to opt out of their current CBA back in October 2024, and they didn't do it with a professional statement or a measured press release. No, they did it with a hype video. They announced a labor dispute like they were announcing a playoff run or a sneaker drop. That set the tone for everything that followed, and now they've been negotiating for 16 months and they are still nowhere close to a number that resides in reality.
Before retiring, jeopardizing the careers of all the other players that we actually want to watch. The Players Association is negotiating in good faith. The league got to step up and stop this nonsense. I don't see any good faith coming from the Players Association. If folks, oh man. If we really think going from 30% to 27% to 26% is good faith, I don't know what to tell you.
The league has set a hard deadline of March 10th for a deal to be completed, or else the season is at serious risk of being delayed. As of right now, that is only 11 days away, and with the clock ticking down, the players just moved their ask from 27.5% to 26%. They genuinely seem to believe that moving 1.5% is a meaningful concession that should unlock the deal, when they are still miles apart from the owners.
You're asking to buy a $50,000 car for $20,000. That's not good faith. The seller of that car says, no, $20,000, you're joking. $21,000. No, no. I don't know how we some of us interpret these things. I don't know. Not over here. We're smart over here. Shout out to all you guys that support. But I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. Yeah, 2026 season is cooked. Ridiculous. The WNBA don't even own their own league. Yep, that's part of it as well. If they own more than 42%, then I'm sure these numbers would look a little bit better. League needs to give a deadline by saying the deals only get worse from here. 26% ain't happening. I feel the league has already given their best deal. Absolutely, I would. Absolutely. Max seating capacity for Washington Mystics, 4,200. Atlanta Dream, 3,500. 22 home games. You on $9.5 million salary. Are y'all kidding me? Out to lunch. Gotta ride the momentum and grow the game first before this can happen. The Players Association needs new leadership. Great point. If business is improving, you take this deal now, and then 3 years down the road when we renegotiate, when we go over these numbers again, that's when you ask for the 9. That's when you ask for the big enchilada. You don't do it at the first sign of hope. At the first sign of hope, you overextend and you overplay your hand. You don't do that. You got to slow play it until you really have proof of concept. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I appreciate all of the support. Like the video and subscribe.
Let's break down what is actually on the table right now, because the raw numbers tell the whole story better than any rhetoric could. The players are proposing a massive $9.45 million salary cap for the 2026 season. The league, on the other hand, is offering $5.65 million. That is not a gap you bridge with minor adjustments or splitting the difference. That is a philosophical chasm about what this league is actually worth right now versus what the players wish it was worth. And here's the part that should honestly terrify the player leadership. The league's 15% offer includes revenue sharing for the first time in WNBA history. This is huge. The players have never had that mechanism before, so the owners are effectively saying, look, we are willing to give you a piece of the upside. We will tie your compensation to the league's success moving forward. But the catch is, the owners are saying, we'll tie your pay to success, but you need to prove the success is sustainable first. The players are responding with, no, we want 26% of gross revenue immediately, guaranteed, based on one profitable year. Do you see the problem here? The owners are putting something unprecedented on the table, actual equity in the league's growth, and the players are treating it like it's an insult because the specific percentage number isn't as high as they dreamed it would be. This point right here is critical, and it's something the Players Association seems to be completely ignoring or misunderstanding. If the business improves year over year, that 15% becomes significantly more valuable than it looks on paper today. Let's say the league manages to grow revenue by 20% in 2026. That revenue share suddenly translates to something like an extra $80,000 per player as a bonus check. If you get another 20% growth in 2027, now you're looking at potentially 6 figures in additional compensation beyond the base salary. That is life-changing money for many of these athletes. But here's the risk the players aren't considering in their calculations. What if the league doesn't grow? What if the ratings decline after the novelty wears off? What if attendance drops because fans are exhausted by this whole negotiation circus and the negativity surrounding it? What if Caitlin Clark gets injured and suddenly those millions of casual viewers tune out? The owners have to plan for that possibility because they are the ones writing the checks. The players are negotiating like exponential growth is guaranteed forever. It's not. Just look at those reactions from the fans who are actually paying attention to the financial details. These aren't casual observers just shouting on Twitter. These are people who understand business fundamentals. And they're all saying the same thing. The Players Association is negotiating like amateurs who don't understand leverage. Someone pointed out a devastating statistic. The maximum seating capacity for the Washington Mystics is only 4,200 people. The Atlanta Dream? They play in a venue that holds 3,500 people. There are 22 home games per team, and the players want a $9.5 million salary cap? The math doesn't even come close to working. You simply cannot generate that kind of revenue from those tiny venues with current ticket prices and attendance levels, no matter how optimistic you are. Another commenter nailed the strategy perfectly. The players should take this deal now, lock in the revenue sharing, prove the growth is real and sustainable over the next 3 years, and then ask for the big increase when the next negotiation cycle comes around. That's how you build leverage in a business partnership. You don't overplay your hand at the first sign of hope. You prove the concept first, secure the bag, and then come back for more when you have the data to back it up. So let's talk about what needs to happen next, because the current trajectory leads nowhere good for anyone involved in the WNBA. The owners need to implement exactly what was described in that opening clip we listened to. They need to set a hard deadline with actual painful consequences, not just, oh, the season might be delayed, but real financial consequences for dragging this out. March 10th deadline, fine. But add this kicker to make it real. For every single day after March 10th that passes without an agreement, the revenue share percentage drops by half a point, so that 15% offer becomes 14.5% on March 11th. It becomes 14% on March 12th. Then it drops to 13.5% on March 13th. Watch how fast the players get serious about negotiating when they see their future earnings evaporating day by day, because right now, there is no real pressure on them to close. The players opted out with a hype video, thinking this was a marketing campaign. They've been making unrealistic demands for 16 months. They're treating this entire process like a PR campaign instead of a complex business negotiation affecting hundreds of livelihoods. And honestly, the owners have been too patient. They keep extending deadlines. They keep entertaining proposals that aren't even in the same universe as reality. The players desperately need new leadership. That's not an attack on anyone personally. That's just an observation based on the disastrous results we're seeing. If you've been negotiating for 16 months, and you're still asking for 26% when the firm offer is 15%, your leadership has failed to prepare you for how these negotiations actually work in the real world. They failed to explain that the NBA players didn't get 50% of revenue overnight. They built up to that number over decades of proven growth, massive TV deals, and consistent profitability. The WNBA just turned its first profit in 25 years. The players want to be compensated like they're in a mature, established league with consistent profitability like the NBA or NFL. They're not. Not yet. Maybe they will be in 5 years, maybe 10. But you don't get paid today for potential that hasn't happened yet. You get paid for results. And here's what is particularly frustrating about this stalemate. The league's offer is actually incredibly generous, given the historical context. Offering 15% of gross revenue with a revenue-sharing mechanism is a significant commitment from ownership. It's a bet on the future. It's the owners saying, we believe this growth is real, and we're willing to tie your compensation to it. But they are also saying, we're not going to bankrupt the league based on one good year. The players should be celebrating that offer as a historic win. Instead, they're treating it like an insult. They're acting like the owners are trying to exploit them, when in reality, the owners are offering something unprecedented in WNBA history. Meanwhile, the players are responding with demands that would likely sink franchises in smaller markets. Think about the Washington Mystics trying to operate with a $9.45 million salary cap when their arena only holds 4,200 people. Think about the Atlanta Dream trying to survive in that same situation with 3,500 seats. The economics simply do not work. Even if you sell out every single game at premium prices, you are not generating enough revenue to sustain that payroll plus operations, travel, coaching staff, medical staff, facilities, and marketing. The players need to understand something fundamental about this business. The owners don't have to agree to any of this. They could lock the players out tomorrow, they could cancel the season entirely. They could wait until the players run out of money and are forced to come back with a more realistic proposal. The owners have all the leverage here. The players are acting like they hold all the cards because of one successful season, but they are misreading the room. They don't have the leverage they think they do. So here's my question for you guys watching. Should the owners implement that declining offer strategy we talked about? Should they tell the players, this is our final offer, 15%, and for every day you delay past the deadline, it drops by half a point? Because at this rate, we might not have a 2025 season at all. And that would be a disaster for everyone involved, especially the young players who had nothing to do with these unrealistic demands but will lose a vital year of their careers because the veterans wanted to cash out before retiring. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Should the owners play hardball to save the season? Or should they keep extending deadlines and hoping the players eventually get realistic? And if you want more deep dive coverage of these negotiations as they develop, make sure you hit that subscribe button because this situation is far from over and it's getting crazier by the day.